Welcome everyone to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Habitronistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security-oriented policies to guide the state of Israel. We are a movement of more than 20,000 people, including many reserve officers and operators from all branches of the Israel Defense Establishment. Thank you, of course, to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning into this briefing, as well as our previous briefings. I'm coming to you today from the field, as well as General Avivi, so hopefully the audio and the video will be strong throughout our briefing. It's a great privilege to be joined, of course, by Brigadier General Amir Avivi, the founder and chairman of IDSF. General, please, what can you share with us in terms of updates in this war?
So I'm in the surroundings of Gaza now, near the village of Faraza, which we visited today. And you can hear a lot of shooting, airplanes, mortars, artillery, and the fighting continues here in Gaza. And we have forces operating in the northern part, around the surroundings of the Gaza city, and the main fight is still in the area of Khan Yunis, and where we have 5 brigades continuing advancing. We've seen in the last few days tens of thousands of Palestinians that feel the siege in Khan Yunis. The IDF completely surrounded the place and is continuing to destroy the Hamas battalions, and more and more people are moving to Rafah city and to the coastal area of El Muasi, where Gush Katif was. And Division 98, with all its forces, is continuing to advance steadily and do a good job. This week, I had a meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, really discussing the main issues. I cannot elaborate too much about that, but I can say that we stated the importance of really conquering and controlling the Egyptian border on the Gazan side, of course, because from there the flow continues all the time of weapons and goods that are going into the Gaza Strip completely uncontrolled. We need to really take control of this place. And at the moment, the army didn't set yet a timetable for that, so we're waiting to see the decision making. This requires coordination with the Egyptians, and we need to really move forward with that. At the same time, there is all the time attacks in Lebanon. We just now had rocket shooting to the center of Israel. The Hamas still has some capabilities to shoot to the center, not too many, but it's still capable to do so. And we have our forces attacking in the area of Lebanon constantly, pushing back Hezbollah more and more to the north. I must say that what worries me is that I see more and more forces in the society calling for elections, calling for dealing really a lot. And hurting our togetherness, our need for being united is very, very dangerous. So we in IDSF are constantly calling to keep unity, to support the army, support the united government in its efforts to move forward with the war. I think it's very dangerous to deal with politics when our soldiers are fighting. I feel that the morale on the field is very, very high. And the soldiers feel that they are succeeding, that they are winning in every single engagement. And we just need to let them do the job. They're doing a good job. I met many reservists, and some of them say that they were fighting, and for like 2 months they didn't have a phone or anything, and then they got hold of a radio, and they listened to the news, and they were shocked because instead of talking about them and about their bravery and about the way they are winning, of course, the news, they are all about politics, about unimportant things. And this is something that really angers, I would say, our reservists and our soldiers who expect the society to really stand behind them and really be focused on what we need, on winning this war. Moshe, I'd be happy, to answer questions. So please.
Sure, thank you. So, General, we were just in Gaza. I don't know if anyone can see in my background right here, but you can see Gaza off to the distance. And when speaking to the soldiers down here, as you mentioned, they have this certain sense of mission and pride, but at the same time, the citizens are not here. So what is it going to take? How long will it be until the citizens on southern towns are able to safely return home? Do you have an estimate of when that will be?
So I think that we need to define what safe is. I mean, I think that to completely dismantle the whole terror infrastructure in Gaza can take more than a year and maybe years. But to really achieve the goals of war and destroy Hamas, eradicate Hamas as a governmental and military entity, this can take maybe a month or two. So I think that once that the IDF takes control of the Egyptian border and really controls everything that's going into Gaza, and when we finish destroying the Rafah brigade and the Central Camps brigade, then I can say that militarily Hamas will be destroyed. It's not that there are not going to be any terrorists at all, but this is going to become sporadic and something that we can deal with. And I think this would be a moment that all the citizens should come back. By the way, many of them are coming back. They're not waiting. But we can definitely create a much safer environment by really finishing to destroy all the military capabilities of Hamas, and we're on our way to achieve this mission. We simply need to keep the pressure until they collapse.
At our summit last week, Lieutenant Colonel Yaron Buskila spoke about the dilemma of having Gazan citizens return to their homes potentially before Israelis return to ours. Do you see how that issue would play out in terms of normalizing Gaza and normalizing Israel?
So I can say we in IDSF completely oppose the idea of bringing Palestinians back to their homes, especially when our civilians are not at home. So, and I think that also talking about safety, I mean, Gaza is all booby trapped. It's full of underground infrastructure that we need to explode. It's still full of terrorists. It's not a safe environment. So I think that we need to keep the Palestinians for a very long time in the south and really give the ability to the army to dismantle all this terror infrastructure without having civilians around them. And this, of course, will also keep the civilians safe. Maybe they won't go to their homes, but at least they will be in a safe zone while the IDF dismantles all this capability. And that might take a long time, more than a year for sure.
Now, one of our viewers just wrote in a question that he heard, and you'll have to tell us the truth to this, that some of the soldiers in Gaza are being restricted in terms of their rules of engagement and capacity to destroy Hamas. Is there any credence to that claim?
Not in the fighting itself where the brigades are operating, but along the border, talking about the perimeter, the safety perimeters. There have been talks in the last few days about restrictions, about shooting people who are going into the perimeter. This is something that I need to check. I heard about it today, and there were some soldiers who talked about that, but it's something that I have to verify with the commanders. I'm not sure exactly what the changes were in the orders of the commanders.
In terms of the tunnels in Gaza, what is the strategy there with hundreds of miles of tunnels? Are they going to be destroyed? Are they being destroyed? Is there progress being made?
So in places that we are attacking, we are also attacking underground, and the soldiers are fighting inside the tunnels, killing terrorists inside the tunnels, trying to reach hostages and trying to reach the leadership of Hamas. Um, but the amount of terror is overwhelming. It's really big, and it's something that is ongoing. It will take many, many years to dismantle everything that was built in Gaza. It's a long, long process. We're not busy now dismantling every single tunnel because we have our missions in the war. Because dismantling, it's an operation that takes a long time. So we are focused on the objectives of the war. And after we eradicate Hamas, then we'll have time to really go and deal with all this underground infrastructure.
And in terms of, again, Gazan citizens returning to their towns, can that happen when they're still in an underground city, or does that all have to be destroyed first?
So I believe we need to destroy it first. I wouldn't return them to areas where you have underground infrastructure, because if they return, you cannot destroy it. And this is something we need to be able to explain and say this is not a safe zone. I mean, as long as we need to destroy underground infrastructure, there is no safety, because when you explode a tunnel, there are buildings around that collapse, and you cannot control exactly what is going to collapse following the explosion. So it's not a safe environment for people to be in.
Right. And then in terms of the Egypt border, and again, thank you to everyone who is throwing all of your questions at us and allowing us to really address what's on everyone's minds. In terms of the Egypt border, are tensions really rising now between Israel and Egypt in terms of operations down there?
So it seems that there is tension, and the Egyptians are upset. I don't know why. Zaswa should be upset about the fact that the Egyptians enabled endless amount of weapons to go from Egypt into Gaza. Everything that there is in Gaza came from Egypt. So we are the ones who should be upset, and yet they are playing with us. Are trying to accuse us, and they're afraid that the Gazans will storm the border at a certain moment and will go out. And also, they are calling us not to take over Rafah. We must do, and I don't see how it endangers their interests in any way. It's obvious that they are supposed to prefer Israelis on the other side of the border and not Hamas on the other side of the border. That is Muslim Brotherhood and belongs to an organization that basically endangers existentially the leadership in Egypt. So yes, there are tensions, but I wouldn't say anything too dramatic at the moment. Moshe, I can't hear you for a certain reason.
Okay, the rockets that came out of Gaza not too long ago, hopefully they were all intercepted by the Iron Dome. Are you able to comment a little bit on how the Iron Dome has been performing and to what extent Israel has the armaments that it needs?
So I think that overall Iron Dome performance is always around 90% success. It's not 100%, but it's good. Um, the amount of shooting we have experienced in the last months, it's dramatically lower than anything we experienced before. So as long as this is the situation, it's also easier for Iron Dome to deal with this. Now they shot like 15 rockets towards Israel, which is basically quite a lot compared to what we saw before. But again, it's one launcher. One launcher has like 20 rockets. So we know that there are many, many launchers spread in different places. So comes as no surprise that they're still able to shoot.
So if the IDF knows that these launchers are there, I guess why have they not been taken out? What is a higher priority in Gaza more than destroying these launching sites?
So the priority is to destroy the Hamas battalions, and everywhere we go, we found these launchers. I mean, as we are operating, we are reaching these launchers. We have destroyed many, many launchers, all equipped and ready to shoot. It could have been much more shooting than what's happening now, but we didn't reach every single meter squared in Gaza. There are areas we haven't reached yet, and this is why these areas have ability to shoot. And the army needs to expand the operation and reach all these places and destroy the launchers. But it's a process. So it's hard to find them. They're underground. It's not that easy to find these launchers.
Okay, let's switch for a moment and talk about the northern border. What is happening right now with Hezbollah? How likely are we to go to an all-out war with our northern border?
So I think that if we don't see, I would say, serious American leadership and a coalition, I think it's more likely that we'll have a war. Because in order to get a diplomatic solution where the world manages to really pressure Hezbollah to retreat from South Lebanon, for this you need a strong coalition and you need determinants and you need to be willing to use military power. We don't see those at the moment in the administration. We do see some fighting against the Houthis, and this is because of the need to keep international trade. And then even this is done not all out, there's shooting, but not that serious. And hard to say. The way I see it at the moment, I think that bigger are the chances of war than managing to prevent war. By the way, what will happen in Gaza will affect all of that. I mean, if Hezbollah sees a decisive win in Gaza, then this might create some deterrence and maybe more motivation to avoid war. But if, God forbid, we don't win in Gaza, this will be devastating to our deterrence and our place in among the nations, especially here in the Middle East. So this is another really strong message we convey to Netanyahu. We have only one option. We have to win. And it needs to be decisive. A complete win against Hamas, and we can do it. We can do it, and the army, the soldiers just want the leadership of the army and the nation to simply give them all they need to achieve their missions. They want to move forward and win this war.
Eli Yusian, who's a member of IDSF, talks a lot about what it means to win from the Arab, from the Hamas, from the Hezbollah perspective versus the world and the Israeli perspective. Or can you share with that a little bit? When you say Hezbollah needs to see that Israel wins, what does that mean for them? What does winning look like?
So Hamas, they need to achieve one goal: survive. They don't care how many people will die. They don't care how many houses we destroyed. They don't care about the prices. They just want to survive. If they survive, they won. That's it. So maybe even if we kill 50,000 terrorists, they don't care about that. The war will end and they will rebuild themselves. Maybe it will take a year, 2, 10, whatever. And so winning is creating the reality where they cannot exist anymore. Certainly not in Gaza. We need to completely destroy all their military capabilities. We need to kill all the leadership of Hamas in the Gaza and outside Gaza. And we need to control Gaza militarily in a way that they can never build again their capabilities. And I think that one of the important things is that at the moment, Hamas is controlling the society through controlling the goods that are coming in. We are sending humanitarian aid. Hamas is seizing it and controlling it. So by controlling Rafah, we will control completely all the aid. Once we control the aid, Hamas basically will lose its grip on the society. And this is something we need to see happening as soon as possible.
After 9/11, it took the US 10 years to kill Osama bin Laden. Is that a likely situation with the leaders of Hamas outside of Israel?
Yeah, it might happen. It might take time. They might hide, but we'll have to hunt them down everywhere they are. And maybe another historical example, talking about the day after from a governmental point of view, when the Allies defeated Germany and Japan in Second World War, they built a military government. In Germany, it was 4 years, in Japan, 6 years, and they controlled the process of denazification of the society. And only when this was achieved, then they transferred the government back to the German people and the Japanese people. And even then, and until today, the US has bases in Germany and Japan. So there is no reason why what happened then won't be relevant for us. It's the same situation. Nobody will de-radicalize the Palestinian society but Israel. We need to, the day after, really control Gaza and manage the process of denazification, manage the process of really changing the whole educational system. We can do it in coordination with Sunni Arab states, bringing some of the know-how they have developed in this sense. But I don't see any Palestinian taking control and really changing hearts and minds in Gaza.
UNRWA, if we could focus on UNRWA, it seems like the world is recognizing what UNRWA has been about. Do you think it's pretty clear UNRWA will not exist after the war? And if that is the case, what will replace it?
So UNRWA doesn't exist only in Gaza, it exists also in Judea and Samaria, it exists also in Lebanon, in places where you have Palestinians. But we can make sure that in Gaza they won't exist anymore. And this is something that must happen. This organization is basically Hamas, and we need to really stop their activities in Gaza, transfer these activities to the IDF, to Kogat, and find other solutions. And I think it would be very beneficial if this organization would completely be dismantled, because the only thing it does, apart of supporting terror, is really perpetuating the conflicts by making the Palestinians refugees forever, something that doesn't happen anywhere.
Okay, are you able to elaborate on the Paris hostage deal? I mean, I know you've been in the field most of the day, but any thoughts on that?
So there's a lot of talks about a hostage deal. I think that there might be a hostage deal only when Hamas will be pressured enough. And as long as they are not agreeing to a deal, it means that maybe we're not pressuring them enough yet. Maybe they think they can escape to Rafah. Maybe they think that the IDF is not going to continue the operation much longer. And because of that, we need to really expand the operation and pressuring them more. This is the only way to really get them to do something and release more hostages.
Thank you. We have many questions coming in about Lebanon and Hezbollah, so I'll just let all of our viewers know that tomorrow we're really going to focus heavily on that issue. So if you have those questions that are not getting answered right now, no worries, stay tuned for tomorrow. I think we'll end off with an important question about the home front war. General, what do you think is the state of the unity in the country right now and the resolve of Israeli society to keep this war going?
I think that the vast majority of the Israeli society is very resolute. They want a decisive win. They are willing to, I would say, pay a price, whether it's economically, whether it's serving in a reserve, even endangering their lives. People are not willing to have anything less than a decisive win. And this is something that I feel is understood also on the government level and in the army. The society is pushing the government and the army to win decisively. And this teaches us a lot about how strong the Israeli society is, much stronger than anything our enemies would imagine. And this is encouraging, but there is always forces, sometimes well-funded, and also that get appearances on media that are discouraging, that are weak, that create disunity. And this is something we need to really fight and say, guys, we're not going to have this. This society is not going to be torn apart again. We want unity. We want everybody to be together and really fight together until we achieve this win.
And this is why IDSF is needed now more than ever to really build on this unity across the country. Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning in. Tomorrow, we will be back with you at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be joined by Sarit Zahavi for an in-depth analysis of what is happening with Hezbollah on the northern border. So please stay tuned until then. Stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much.